White, the story. He'd gone to investigate a death about a year ago by himself. No one else in the station. The call sounded simple. Man found dead beneath a tree, beginning to smell. Could someone take a look? Most days not worth bothering with. But it was a slow morning and White took the job seriously. The woman seemed upset, like it was personal. The body was down near the bay, beside a cracked stone sign that used to welcome visitors to ambergris. No one was around, not the woman who had called it in, no one. The man lay on his back, connected to the tree, which was a huge mushroom, connected by tendrils, the smell vile, the man's eyes open and flickering. White should have left. White should have known better. But maybe White was bored, or wanted to change, or just didn't care. He hadn't seen his kids since they'd been sent out of the city. He'd been fighting with his wife a lot. He leaned over the body. Maybe he thought he saw something floating in the eye, something moving, and maybe movement meant life to him. Who knows? Just know that it's a dumb move. A dumb move. That's how the detectives would say it during the retell, at their little refuge not far from the station. Blakely had discovered the place, in front of what used to be the old bureaucratic quarter. Looked like a guard post, nondescript, gray stone, surrounded by a thicket of half-walls, rubble hills, and stunted trees, with a moat that was really just a pond that collected rainwater. From the inside it was clear the structure was the top of a bell tower, pulled down and submerged when the occupation came. Always half out of their minds with whiskey or homemade wine or whatever when they told the story. A dumb move, like they were experts. Point is, Alvin would say, because Alvin usually told the story, he leaned over and the man's head exploded into spores, and those spores got into White's head. White spores for White, through the nose, through any exposed cuts, through the ears, to the eyes. Although he fought it, twisted furiously, jumped up and down, cursed like the end of the world, so at least he didn't just stand there and let it happen. But by that time it was too late, Alvin would say. A few minutes later and he's just somebody's drone. White became someone else, the dead man, someone who didn't understand what had happened to him. White ran down the street, taken over, screaming. Screaming a name over and over again. This is Alvin again. Otto, I'm out Otto, because that was the dead man's name. White thought he was Otto, or most of them did. White, deep inside, still knew who he was, and that was worse. Sometimes out of a casual cruelty, a kind of boredom, one of the other detectives, usually Blakely, would call White Otto, until Finch made him stop. Well, they found him a day later, once they figured out who the dead body was, cowering in a closet saying Otto over and over again, in the dead man's apartment, a caution to us all. Then they would clink glasses and bottles, congratulating themselves on being alive. Truth was, they told the story less to humiliate White than to keep reminding themselves not to take any chances. No dumb moves. White got Otto out of his head, eventually, most of Otto, but not the fungus. That became worse. The Gray Caps couldn't or wouldn't help. Maybe they saw it as some kind of perverse improvement. No one ever found out who had lured White there, or why. Finch knew they never would. And back to present. The address turned out to be a modest-looking two-story apartment building west of the religious quarter, shoved up against more of the same, with the billowing dome of the northernmost work camp beyond. Finch recognized it as a former Frank Ryan and Loudon neighborhood. It had retained some sense of order, of discipline. A few men with red armbands stood on the sidewalk like guards while people traded goods. Finch was nervous, always worried when they went to F&L places that someone would tag him as an ex-Hoboken irregular, maybe want to put a bullet through his head. He would have liked to have told the detectives in this sector what they were doing, but the Gray Caps frowned on cooperation. It had begun to drizzle, had been damp and warm all day. A mist gathered around Finch, moistened his hair, his face. Green sweat had darkened the armpits of White's shirt and now leaked through his overcoat. Would White hold up? Please let him hold up. Inside, down the hall, gun drawn, leaking. White always went first now. He'd accepted that role voluntarily. It only made sense. At the green, gold, purple splotched door of Bliss's apartment on the first floor, White signaled his intent. The door didn't look that strong. White would batter it down. Finch would storm through behind him. A strange mewling whine came from inside, just strange enough to make Finch shiver. Finch mimed wait, took out his handkerchief, turned the knob. The door opened. White was through before Finch could stop, yelling, "Detective, hands up!" Finch followed, heart like a hammer, gun squirting out a little between his hands in his hard double grip. The first 4 rooms empty, trashed. Someone had destroyed or ransacked everything. Tables, couches overturned, books shredded, torn pages everywhere, a smell of shit or rot or both, and blood. Lots of blood, sprayed, pooling, but no bodies. From the looks of the furniture, the arrangement had always been meant to be temporary, or at least it was now. In the back bedroom, they found the source of the mewling. Oh, fuck, said Finch. Is that him, White asked. Yes. Ethan Bliss had been nailed alive against the far wall above a bed. His face was crusted with blood, white shirt red, blood welling from his punctured extremities, his hands and feet still twitching as he tried to pull free of the green nails that looked like hard mushrooms, whimpering and looking down at them through eyes crusted with something purple and brittle. The eyes to the crust registered Finch, white. A bright red mushroom had been rammed into his mouth, but he'd managed to get most of it out. In a muffled roar, "Don't just stand there like a couple of fucking idiots, get me down." Bliss began to weep. Thanks.